We were given this mission to create the most aerodynamic, the most amazing platform, for next generations of Mack trucks. So we were very excited, but also obviously the task was tall because designing a truck from ground up, it's not something you do every day.
Welcome to mile marker number 1, our first episode of Beyond the Bulldog, presented by Mack Trucks. My name is Brian Wright, and I'll be your host. What you can expect from Beyond the Bulldog is to learn, enjoy, and participate in this podcast, all from the comfort of your seat, whether on the road or off. You'll engage in stories and lessons learned from industry experts, as well as those who may work with Mack Trucks. We're excited to present our first episode with Allen Zadeh, Design Director at Mack Trucks. He's been with Mack over 7 years, which is about the time they started planning for the new Mack Pioneer. You'll realize quickly how passionate and emotional Allen is about design, trucks, and its impact on people. So let's get started learning about these topics of design, aerodynamics, and fuel efficiency.
You're listening to Beyond the Bulldog, presented by Mack Trucks.
We are here with Allen Zadeh. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank
I'm
you.
excited to have you here. I'm even just listening to you then and just prior to getting here in the studio. This is going to be awesome because
Thank you.
You're obviously passionate about what you do with Mack Trucks, and I'm excited about that too because the energy is contagious. And so we already talked about the fact that you're the design director here at Mack Trucks, and I've got a lot of neat things on the horizon. So taking one quick step back, so what's your background? How did you get into your role, and how does that apply to what you do today?
All right. Thanks for having me here.
Of course.
It's nice to be here and get an opportunity to talk about Mack and talk about design. So my background, I'm an industrial designer. Started as a, architect. I was actually studied for a few years of architect, but then I realized that I was really interested in consumer products and transportation. I've always been a gearhead. So building motorcycles, building cars. I'm still have a few projects in my garage right now. So this has been sort of, part of my life, designing and building things. So after I graduated, I went to design school in Sweden, actually.
Okay.
So graduated there as a advanced product designer. I wasn't quite sure actually what I wanted to do because one of the things is that now there's so many areas you can focus on as a designer, whether you're a transportation designer or product designer, consumer electronics, or what might be. So I wanted to be a generalist because I was always interested in problem solving, working to see what are some of the exciting, challenges that no one has thought of, or how can we propel brands into the future. So with that in mind, I moved to New York. I had a job offer, and it was very exciting. I was a senior designer at a design consultancy. I worked with a lot of technology company, Fortune 500. Consumer electronic was really my focus to begin with, but then I slided over to transportation, something that I always was passionate about.
Right.
So we get to design some cars and some other things. I always kept falling back to simplicity in idea, even though I worked with technologies and a lot of complex, systems. And I always thought that the design's job is to really simplify people's lives or address the problems that they have. So for me, that's been my quest. Working in New York was really awesome because it really allowed me to work with so many different brands and really understand and learn how to infuse brand attributes to a physical object. How do you design a sense of durability or the perception of long lasting into a product? How do you speak to that key attributes of your brand. How do you explain, how do you tell that story? So I think that was sort of really exciting to me from beginning, which allowed me to really work with a brand DNA a lot. Like, how do we evolve brands as the technology gets complex, or as things become, in our society becomes very intertwined, connectivity, screens, all of that stuff that is happening around us. And, but I think it's more than ever, I'm convinced that design has been playing a big role since, I would say, from 1950s. That design became like sort of the thing. We care for things that beautiful, that we connect to, that we feel with. That's like, that speaks to me. That's part of me. But I think more and more as our lives become complex, design will play a more role of a sort of a facilitator, kind of helping us to sort the problems or understand issues better or do our job better. So I think this is inherently you can hear that I'm interested in people more than almost I'm interested in design.
Well, they're connected, right?
Of course.
Because people perceive and feel what design creates in all of the ways, in the different senses. So that's a great segue, because we just had some recent news about the Mack Pioneer being revealed in Brooklyn.
Yes.
So what do you think about that truck?
Again, Brooklyn, I lived in Brooklyn for 22 years. And when I went to a launch last week, it was just very emotional to me, actually, seeing, birthplace of Mack, 125 years of, a journey, and now back to Brooklyn to write a new chapter, to really turn a page and look forward. So I thought what we have with Mack, the Mack Pioneer, is really a new icon. We had to write a new icon for a Mack because this was our opportunity to really also show the world that Mack is about efficiency, about empowering our customers. It's about, comfort. It's about all these things that maybe we all knew about Mack, but we had to bring that to the forefront and distill that story. So that was really exciting for us. Again, me and my team I have a very tight-knit team of designers. We're like about maybe 15, 18 people. And we work with every aspect of the truck, the interior, exterior, and UX, which is all the content that goes on screens, within the secondary screen, within instrument cluster, etc. So we do a lot of balancing. We do a lot of prototyping. We do a lot of testing our assumption. A lot of clinics, trying to make sure that we are addressing the right problems. But I think with this truck, we really wanted to cast a vision into the future. What you will get to see in the future when it comes to Mack.
What was the inspiration behind it? Of course, we talked a little bit about, here's your blank sheet of paper.
Yeah.
And you have trucks with Mack that have a history. People are die hard. They love the R model. They love the Superliner, right?
Yes.
What's that next thing? Now you've got a blank sheet of paper. What's that? What is that had that?
So the first thing I would say that, we start everything with a sketch. Even now, and we have a lot of high-tech
paper.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have a lot of high-tech tools we use every day, digital tools, VR, whatnot. But essentially the ideas starts with paper and pen. Even now today with my team, we sit down, we always sketching and we, looking at what makes this one sketch or one idea more Mack than the other. Some of the things I look for to find even in those first sketches is the energy. If you look at Mack trucks, there is some power. There is an energy and a power in the truck. It comes from the stance. It comes from the shoulders. It comes from the just the sheer size and the presence that it has. It's almost like a melody. It's like a music that you hear, you don't know what it is, but it kind of sounds amazing. And that takes a lot of balancing, a lot of fine tuning, dialing different knobs to get to that beautiful melody. Mm-hmm. And that's what was made this truck so amazing, because we really didn't want it to stop at any point. We wanted to make sure that this is the most aerodynamic truck, the most comfortable truck, the most properly designed cockpit for the drivers who want to spend time in here for weeks and maybe in a row, right? So we really wanted to make sure that we deliver on all of these. But at the end of the day, I wanted to make sure that if you saw this in your rear mirror, you know that it's a Mack truck.
Right. So when it comes to design, people initially think vision, right? What does it look like? And there's the outer shell and how it flows. But you also have different constraints, right? There's a chassis, there's a frame rail. There are size restrictions and limitations. Goals for, and we'll talk about aerodynamics and things like that later, but you've got aerodynamic goals, but you also have the design element. How do you work with all of these factors? Because if we say you start with design and we'll build the truck under it, that might be different than here's the frame, design a truck out on top of it. Exactly. How does that work?
We, the unique thing about trucks are, compared to, say, automotive, is that, they have all the fantastic elements of living space, driving space. The sheer size is so much bigger, so you have to understand proportion. You have to understand scale. So when we start working on it, normally we actually have a baseline sort of internal, like some sort of guts that we are targeting in terms of where the chassis sits, where the axles are, where the engine, the height of the cooling package, etc. Right? We have some baseline sort of dimensions. But imagine this, that the engineer is also developing that in parallel as we are developing the design, the exterior, the interior components. Because this is an act of co-creation. Mm-hmm. So it's never so that the design sets the sort of the vision, and then all the engineering and everything else has to fit in with that work, with that design. So often is a lot of back and forth. We do a lot of sort of checking in. We constantly get new technical inputs from our engineers, from chassis and cab engineers, to understand if there are changes that they've made. We will capture that. But a lot of the early concepting is really to really drill and capture that attitude of a Mack immediately. But then we need to also make sure that we balance that with a lot of hard facts like aero.
Right.
And I say this, Mack Pioneer is the most aerodynamic truck you could ever see now on a road. And I can say that with confidence because we've been on this for 7 years. Mm-hmm. One of the tall sort of targets that we gave ourselves when we started this program, and this is a bit of a joke, but I was telling my team as we were sitting and looking at how we can improve the aero, I was saying we would not leave anything on the table when it comes to aero. Mm-hmm. Reason being is ultimately Mack is a productivity tool, right? We love it, but also it's the toughest truck. It's the best truck. So if you ask me, if it's a highway truck, it should have like the best aerodynamic properties.
Right.
Right? And obviously this took a while, and some say aerodynamics is like a dark magic or something. Like it's hard to understand or something. Right? This is very difficult because you have aerodynamists who's sitting and, moving things, and you do simulations. Back in the days, we used to actually have wind tunnels where we used to put our trucks inside. But now most of those, that kind of studies, aero studies, we do digitally. we do simulations. But immediately we took a lot of inspiration from our previous truck, like Anthems, in terms of how the fenders sit and give us the shoulders and give us the presence and the stance. But also there's a lot of fantastic sort of value that comes with that kind of fender design, because the way you push the air over the fender and how you push some of that air over the hood. So we wanted to keep some of that, and obviously it paid off for us.
Right.
You know, I'm in the motorsports, so my eyes are always looking for what makes things go fast or what makes things become more aerodynamics, right?
Right.
And I think and then we realized that we have a lot of great opportunities to really improve aero on that. I think at some point we had almost locked ourselves in a room with a team of aerodynamists for about 2 months when we knew the concept that we were developing. And we were moving every inch and millimeters on a surface on this truck to make sure that we have optimized it to the point that there was nothing left on the table.
Yeah.
So that really put us into a really good position. We found opportunities to improve aero. We took those. And the beautiful thing was a lot of those opportunities also gave us a lot of design power that we can make it unique Mack. Today, when I look at it, I always have this test. I say, if you take the branding away, you should feel that this is a Mack. You don't need the branding, right? It doesn't need to say M-A-C-K on it. It needs to be just like, you need to feel it that it's a Mack. And that needs to be from all the way from interior to exterior, everywhere.
Yeah.
It needs to be very singular experience. I remember at one point, I was worried that, well, if you look at, say, 30, 40 years ago, we really didn't have many aero trucks. And some might say, well, if you want to do an aero truck, then it will end up looking like Teslas. And I think what we wanted to prove that you don't need to look in a certain way. As a matter of fact, you don't need to look super organic. If you look at Mack design DNA, it's very technical design. It's very chiseled. It's very muscular. It's very energetic. Again, it has power. It looks like it's moving forward. And it still meets and surpasses the aero targets that we set on ourselves. So to me, that was 2 tasks there. Deliver branded design, but then it needs to absolutely be the most aerodynamic truck.
This year, Mack Trucks celebrates its 125th anniversary and the release of our new flagship truck, Mack Pioneer. To commemorate these historic milestones, Mack Shop has released limited edition apparel and accessories. From shirts and hats to coffee mugs and bags, Mack Shop has lots of ways for you to show off your love of this iconic American brand. And right now, podcast listeners can save 20% off selected items just by using the code MACKPODCAST. That's one word, no spaces. Just go to mackshop.com for all the latest Mack styles and make sure to use the code MACKPODCAST to save, or click the link in the description below. We are here with Allen Zadeh. He is our design director with Mack, and we're having a great conversation about design, and we're now talking about aerodynamics, not just having the design element that speaks to Mack, but also having it efficient where it can flow through the air. So with Mack Pioneer, and I guess generally for all trucks, what are the areas that rob the tractor of fuel efficiency because the air is turbulent, I guess would be the right way to say it. Where are the areas that really matter?
Absolutely. So, I mean, vehicle front obviously is the first part that it really gets that sort of air resistance. And so looking at the grille, how you design the grille. With Mack Pioneer, obviously, we have a very powerful engine. So we have a quite large cooling system. So we look at the cooling system, how air behaves as it goes in, but also surrounding of the grille, like the grille surround how the air behaves. Fenders, obviously, and headlamp, any object that is basically you have it right in the vehicle front is quite important area to really optimize. Then if you look over the hood to the windshield, we have an incredible windshield on Pioneer. It's a curved windshield. Mm-hmm. It's probably one of the most advanced windshield you would find in the market today, because not only is it quite difficult to make that curved windshield, but we also have a completely different material which is super durable, and we wanted to make sure that it gives an incredible visibility from the driver from the inside, but it also provide an incredible aero opportunities for us. So that windshield development was quite important for us. Vehicle front, obviously we mentioned that. There is a massive amount of opportunities sort of between the trailer and the cab, because essentially we're moving this big box, right? And the air starts going sort of in turbulent way right after the cab. So we have different closeouts and different ways to manage that. And sometimes, after you've done a lot of simulation and revised the design, we find always that sweet spot. And it could be just moving your surfaces by like a few millimeters or a half an inch, and you suddenly see an incredible improvement in aerodynamics, right? So that's the kind of iterative process that we go about. We look at the performance, we dial our surfaces a little bit, change things up a little bit, and we test it again and see how now it performs. So there's quite a bit also in the chassis fairing, obviously. Under the vehicle is a fantastic opportunity. If you look at some of the sort of the race cars, they're all flat.
Right. Splitter and diffuser.
Yep. So there's a lot of those areas that we've also worked to improve. But again, I think every inch of exterior of that truck has been really optimized. I mean, we had 7 years to go through every millimeters of that.
It's hard to imagine, just from a layman's term, it's like how much time does it take to really design something? Well, as you talked about, it progresses over time.
Of course.
Different challenges come forward and you have to keep adapting. What other pieces contribute, now that we're really kind of talking about the gist of miles per gallon, fuel efficiency, it's huge these days. If you're driving 100,000 miles per year in a tractor trailer like this, man, if you can save just a little bit, it's huge. So aero contributes to that. What other factors play a role into fuel efficiency?
Absolutely. I mean, our engine is way more fuel efficient than previous engines. It's just breathes better. It's just modern engine. It's not comparable to things we've done in the past. So there's a lot of other aid within the engine that helps it run better, breathe better, have less fuel. The efficiencies that I think engineers really focused on, it went beyond engine. There was a lot of, even from the chassis, placement, location of things, weight distributions. It's a lot of balancing that I think we had to do to make sure that we can squeeze as much as we can out of it. So yes, on a skin, yes, aero is definitely, we always, think about exterior as, it looks very aerodynamic, but there is a lot underneath the skin that also contributes to that. Yeah. Deflectors are, I think we also have like aero packages that we can add to,
right?
Yeah, which even improves the aero even more. So one of the interesting thing now we're talking about aero, one of the biggest detriment, I guess, for aero is mirrors, right? Our mirrors are a big penalty to our aero. And I think with Mack Pioneer, we also going to launch a camera monitoring system.
Right.
Which hopefully now we can reduce the size of our door mirrors to 50-inch mirrors, which allows us to really, again, get better fuel efficiency, because, having two large mirrors on each side, and then sometimes you have hood mirrors as well, right? They are big sort of penalties we have to take on aero. So I can see in the very soon future that once, we are really in a sort of improved a lot of these technologies, that we will get to see trucks on the road that may not even have mirrors at all. Camera monitoring systems are nowadays incredible in terms of you get a 360-degree visibility around the trucks, backup cameras, all of that. All this stuff that we know from our regular cars that we drive and we've accustomed to, right?
Yeah.
I understand that these are the things that also takes time for adoption, getting used to, but we've done a lot of clinics. We've run these technologies and tested with a lot of our drivers, a lot of our Mack drivers. So we are very confident that we are going to offer some super powerful features to our customers that they will enjoy.
To that end, so interesting you brought that up, because it came up with another interview I had as far as the clinics. So we're not just say designing in a bubble. Here's a great design, here's a great concept, working with all the team, from engineering to whatever it may be, the cab, the chassis. But now, during that process, we're also having these clinics. Can you elaborate what that is, like who takes part in these clinics, and how you might take some of that feedback to go back, if you will, to the drawing board, right?
Right, yeah. So, I mean, we've done a lot of clinic particularly on a driving environment, where we test sort of our early assumptions with design, right? Usabilities, ergonomics, reachability, position of some of the switches, which one is best, visibility. So there's quite a bit of sort of checking we do with our customers at the early stages, where we actually create these environments, these driving environments, where it's actually it's a sort of a buck, where we take it to Virginia Tech and elsewhere, where we actually have drivers, Mack drivers, as well as other drivers from other brands, and it's fantastic, because once we look at our how our drivers respond to different ideas, I think it gives us a quite clear idea which path we should be on. And we do this quite often, because, as you say, the content constantly evolving and changing. So we normally don't go with our first assumptions that, we heard that they want this, maybe we should focus on that, because we know that even when we get to the later stages in the project, we really need to, again, as a validation, we need to bring our customers back in and really see their response.
Yesterday at Mack corporate headquarters, we had a celebration of the Mack Pioneer.
Yes.
And I was responsible for being out there to help share information about the new truck. Not many, people all contribute to it, right? But there might be some pieces I can fill in. And one of the neat things that I got was that people would show up in front of the truck and they would ask me not what the truck is about, but to take their picture. And, after 2 or 3 rounds of this, of course, I'm happy to. After 2 or 3 rounds of this, I really sensed that there's a pride that they contributed to something like this.
Yes.
And now there it is in reality. And now they get to share with it that pride in Mack and the Pioneer, and what I do for a living is now physically in front of me. I thought that was amazing.
It is amazing. I think I always watch people's respond, and I was also there on the grass. I was walking around and looking at people, and some of these folks, I have been in the meetings with them. I have been sort of fighting it out that, hey, let's do it better, let's work harder. And I think it's really fantastic to see the sense of joy and the sense of accomplishment that the team has. I think, we forget how many people is involved, how many people been working, solving problems, going outside of their comfort zone, over-delivering to make sure that, we have something fantastic. So yeah, it is exceptional. And I say this thing, I was actually driving to my studio, and what I see in my rear mirror, a Mack truck, I see Mack Pioneer. And I was like so excited, I almost got into an accident.
Oh, really?
Yes, because I was like, oh my God. And, when you worked on something for quite a long time with your team through thick and thin, and then you finally see it, sometimes it's surreal. It is surreal. It was surreal for me. I was like, I can't believe this is on the road. And I was overjoyed. I was overjoyed. And when I actually came in and pulled the car in, I had to jump out. We have a couple of trucks right in the headquarters in the front. And I had to just walk around it again. Now, I have been seeing this for all these years, but I still had to get out of my car, walk around it, almost like just, feeling it. I wanted to be in its presence.
Makes a ton of sense.
This Week in History.
This Week in History dates back to May 8th, 1920. A caravan of 20 trucks left Dallas and completed a 6-day tour of North Texas to demonstrate the value of trucks and good roads to farmers. A contemporary account explained that the trucks covered 402 miles before returning to Dallas. There were drenching rains over 3 days, which made the roads condition terrible. But if anything, it made it more successful. The farmers who saw the caravan knew the trucks can go anywhere, that they can carry the loads, and that they can be used in farming with profit. What led to this movement started in World War I. Because the railroads proved unable to keep up with demand, trucks were a key to successful transport and victory. Post-World War I, trucking gained a foothold on interstate transportation, yet the road infrastructure was not designed for heavy trucks, nor their solid rubber tires. As a result, highways became increasingly congested and began to show signs of distress. The ship-by-truck movement was started by Harvey S. Firestone, who founded Firestone Tire and Rubber Company. He had an idea for a stunt to hold National Ship-by-Truck Build Good Roads Week on May 17 through 22, 1920. It was, as he said, time for getting together in recognition of a great new industry that has grown up before our eyes, motor transport. He said, the new day is here, not only of a broader commercial greatness, but a day of better national understanding, which comes through swift, efficient transportation.
This has been This Week in History.
We are here with Allen Zadeh, Design Director with Mack, and we're talking about the feel of a truck.
Yeah.
And no better place than the interior of the cab, because that's the area that drivers are going to spend the most time, possibly at work and in their regular lives, other than maybe sleeping, and quite possibly that too.
Yeah.
So let's shift to the interior design. Clearly, the exterior is an emotional thing. You see it. You can feel that bold design that you were explaining a little bit earlier. How is the interior different? What are those elements of the interior of a Mack truck that need to come through?
Yep. One of the really fantastic opportunities we had with this truck is to really, again, go back to the paper and pen and just create a new interior. Nothing that it was coming from Anthems or previous trucks. And this was a really a fantastic opportunity for us, right? What kind of stories we saying? How do we create an environment for our drivers that they feel productive, they feel empowered, they feel like, the promise is, kept. Promise given, promise kept.
Right.
That's quite important to me.
Yeah.
So one of the things we know about Mack trucks is the durability, the materiality of it, right? Real metals, real things. And so we had to really dig deep and make sure that some of those unique touch points that our customers have as they come into this truck, as they put their foot on the first step, second step, they open the door, and second step and grab the handle and they come inside. The things they touch and they feel, whether it's their foot, the shoe, the hand, it's Mack. Nothing. We wanted to make sure our door handles were metal, that cold, nice touch of metal, that you know that is durable. You can open that door 10,000 times and it's going to be there for you. So we wanted to make sure that we really deliver on those. Obviously, when you can imagine that the challenge with the cost of things these days, right?
Yeah.
We had to find a right way to balance this out, to make sure we deliver those experiences to our customers, but also we have to be reasonable in terms of production methods and serviceability and how everything gets integrated and so on. So we were very excited about, even tackling the dynamic display screens. As you know, Mack, historically, we've always had analog, gauges and needles, and now we have a very fantastic dynamic screen. With the screens, we wanted to make sure that, again, that experience of the analog experience still lives in that digital world. HMI, all the knobs and buttons, we wanted to make sure that that tactile experience, how it feels when you touch it, that technical experience was there. That feeling that you're still in charge, you are in charge, as a matter of fact, that it's still there. We had to pay attention to a lot of our drivers. They might be wearing gloves when they're operating the vehicle. They might be, different size in terms of physique, or, as you say, some drivers bring a whole lot of stuff into their truck when they're traveling. So we had to really dial in, but we focused on really meaningful, tangible innovation on the interior. Make sure that, day to day, every day you come in, you get into this truck, everything is there for you, from the cup holders to your ELD plate to your screens, and everything is perfectly positioned for you to use and enjoy every day. And every time you use, you should be smiling that this is so unique to Mack. That's really the key. Then we wanted to also make sure that, some of the things like you hear, comfort. Absolutely. We were really excited that we got also the opportunity to develop a whole new seat with this program. So Mack Pioneer seats, they are probably the top-notch seats in the trucking world right now. You have heating, massage, cooling, all of those luxuries that you can imagine with these seats. We made the seat wider so that you have more comfortable seating. A lot of our drivers might be a larger driver, so we want to make sure that they have elbow rooms and they have areas they can grab and pull themselves up if they need to. So as you sit inside of this truck and you start discovering these touch points and they all add up, then you come to this conclusion that this is so uniquely Mack experience.
Right.
This is a signature Mack experience compared to any other truck.
At the end of the day, truck driver is a driver.
Yes.
So they've got the interior design, the tactile feels, the look, everything. But their focus is looking out the windshield, seeing the visibility. As you mentioned, the digital mirrors help too.
Yep.
But their function is that. So how is placement and, I guess, ergonomics a factor in everything? Because at the end of the day, they're driving something that weighs a lot, and they want to deliver for their business, their companies, and their customers.
Yes. We do a lot of simulation on and testing on what drivers will get to see from their vantage point, the vision cone, how much you will see up over your hood, how much you see to the side. Let's say if you have a cyclist on the side, or if you have somebody's crossing, the sidewalk, so I think we paid a lot of attention to the, again, visibility, but for us was the sense of also control, for you to be able to have really a good understanding about what's happening around the truck. So obviously this curved windshield really helped us with that. And if you sat inside of Mack Pioneer, you will totally realize that the way it kind of wraps, it really, the A-pillars kind of, even though A-pillars is still there, but you have much sort of broader vision out towards the hood and out to the world. And in the previous trucks, we really had a very flat windshield, which was not so aero, but it's also not so good for visibility. As we get through, this generation of trucks, how technology really help aiding a lot of these visibility issues. But it's quite an important thing, because it's not about just seeing, it's also about being controlling. We rigorously test every aspect of our interior to make sure that the experiences are seamless. You can easily make a decision. The information you might get from the vehicle, from the screens, really on point. The feedback is there. And we really trying to we will distill this for years to come, because that's really the value there, because we want to make sure that we put safe products out there and also give confidence to our drivers that they can operate this, they're in charge of it. I said that earlier to you that I have this sentence always written in my head that, our job is to put Mack drivers behind this wheel and make them feel like they're in charge. They're in control of this vehicle.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of great things and a lot of good work that we do on the interior that it's hard to really sum it up. But also some of the materialities of things. Like, we look at trim levels, we look at how material is going to wear, how your floor mat looks like, what kind of feeling you're going to get when you're standing on that floor mat. How does it clean if you pour the coffee? All of that. What if you spilled something? What if you did? We play these scenarios over and over and over, and we try to address these problems as we design.
Yeah. Let's move back just a little bit, literally in the cab, because when we're talking about a long haul tractor, we're talking about sleeper areas.
Yeah.
And what I've seen in this truck is remarkable. So once people are out from behind the wheel, resting from a long day's travel, talk about that interior design for that sleeper area. Yeah, there's a lot out there.
Yeah, there is a lot. It's at home away from home, right?
Yes.
So this is almost, and this is what I really love trucks for, because again, I started as an architect for a few years, and I realized that maybe I didn't have the patience to wait for a building to go up. But then now I'm designing trucks that take 7 years.
7 years, yeah.
But the reference I was giving is that, as an architect, you always worry, you're always thinking about the space that you put the people in, right? What kind of lighting you have there, what kind of vibe you offering. Is it a resting mode or feeling of, I can relax here? Or is it a feeling of like, I'm just have to quickly, just sit here 5 minutes? We wanted to make sure that it really has all the creature comforts, right? If you actually, as you say, move back to the back of the cab and you want to rest there, you're not driving. You want to be relaxing. So we want to make sure that you had your storage. We really optimized the storage on this truck. We wanted to make sure that you have space for everything you bring in. Everything from wardrobe. We have a tall wardrobe box where you can hang your belongings. Food prep tables. We have microwaves and TVs and the fridges and all that. Mattress. One of the things we also wanted to make sure, if you're lying down there and you're resting or watching some shows on a TV and relaxing, that you're still in charge of the truck, because you're able to change the temperature in the truck. You're able to do some basic things, dim the lights, and those things are right there next to you in the living space. So we wanted to make sure that as you travel from the front of the truck to the back, from the drive-in to the living, you're still able to adjust lighting, temperatures, things that are really relevant for you when you're in a rest mode.
This has been tremendous. So as we near a close, I ask a question, and I'll say a word.
Yeah.
I want you to kind of, you've actually already answered it, but I'm going to ask it anyway because this word's cool and it relates to Mack. It's heritage. So what does that mean for you? How does it relate?
What comes to my head, I see a picture of a granite truck building Empire State Building, building Hoover Dam. I see how the Mack brand has really helped build the roads, build America. That's what I see. That, to me, that's heritage. That's this perseverance. That's this, a brand that, not a huge brand, but a brand that actually was there all along. Next to every hard hat, you saw a Mack truck. That's heritage.
Yeah.
That is something you can't just buy or just create. That is in making for over 125 years. So when I look at those black and white photos, I see early, products of Mack trucks. We used to make buses. We used to make so many great things, right? What I see is, again, this relentless dedication to innovation, to productivity, to mindset of we create powerful tools to make the impossible possible, to make Empire State Building, to make Hoover Dam. That is heritage to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was really well said. What other things should we include in our conversation that I failed to answer?
No, you didn't fail anything.
Or failed to ask, I guess.
I would say probably something about what's next for Mack.
Perfect. Because we talked about heritage.
Exactly.
It just transfers to that next step. So talk to me about that.
So obviously, Mack Pioneer, as I mentioned, it's sort of the first fantastic chapter in this amazing book that we are writing now. Mm-hmm. I think we are excited because we are really well positioned to really offer some incredible products in the coming years for Mack customers. And you guys just seen a tip of an iceberg right now. We're very excited because, we have fantastic customers. We feel like we're very close to our customers. We understand exactly what they want. And with today's technologies and the progress we've had in terms of efficiencies and improvements and powers, we're really best suited to offer some of the best products, best trucks that you will ever see. What is unique to Mack also with all of it as we look into the future is that Mack always will be authentic. Yes, we will be a modern Mack. We will be proficient. We will be performance focused. We will be aero focused. We will be the best productivity tool you could ever have. I'm sure you have a lot of different hammers at home, but there's that one hammer that you want to use, right? Whenever you want to do that special thing.
Oh, yeah.
So we will remain to be that special truck. Yeah. And I think that's the uniqueness about Mack, that with all this legacy, with all this fantastic stories, all these milestones we've been through with Mack, I think actually the future is even more exciting. I love to look in the mirror and look back to the past, but what I see in front of me, it gets me so excited. Yeah. We've already working on future products, next coming stuff, and so I can't obviously talk about that, but again, I can assure you that the future is extremely bright for Mack because not just because of the heritage, because it's authenticity of Mack brand. Mm-hmm. We want to give customers what they want. Period.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe and make sure to follow the Bulldog.